Is Revenge of the Sith good? If this is your first time joining us and asking the question, is Star Wars good? Welcome. If not, you're probably familiar with the formula at this point. I take a Star Wars movie, which I admittedly love, and critique it with a way too powerful microscope. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of being unbiased in these reviews, to the point where people have told me that it sounds like I just absolutely hate Star Wars, which is not true, and I don't think that will be more apparent than when we dig into Revenge of the Sith here. It is definitely my favorite Star Wars movie, and that proved to be true again, and I hope that that did not interfere with my ability to accurately critique it. After the standard useless opening crawl, we get a absolutely fantastic opening for this movie. Really the best opening of any Star Wars movie, and visually it's up there with anything that you can put on a screen, I think. Even for today's CGI standards, this fight looks and sounds awesome. Sound design is right up there with Phantom Menace level sound design, which is really saying something. And into the fight we go. Everything is blowing up. Things just look fantastic, and we get a shot of Anakin's normal cocky attitude in the cockpit of his ship, but then we quickly contrast that with his self-sacrificing side as he wants to go help these clones out that are in a fight. But Obi-Wan steers him back towards the mission, and they go and crash themselves into the capital ship. After some droid slicing, we get introduced to our villain, General Grievous, for the first time outside of that opening crawl. Gotta love that. I'm sure he will be a mainstay in Star Wars for a long time and not immediately be killed off. Obi-Wan and Anakin are making their way up to him, or to save the Chancellor, and it takes probably way too long to get there as they talk to R2 and mess around and kill some more droids. Could have sped through that a little bit. But R2-D2 does do some cool stuff for the first time in 6 movies, so I'm okay with it, I guess. Then we pick up right where we left off at the end of Attack of the Clones with a patented prequel weird CGI flip and a duel between Count Dooku, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. While it looks like Obi-Wan and Anakin have spent some time between movies training together, it would appear Obi-Wan still needs some work. The fight itself is very well choreographed, much better than the Attack of the Clones counterpart, and it's really smooth and just feels like a good fight, especially whenever it gets into the heart of it with Anakin and Count Dooku going strike for strike. The ending flurry that's started by this powerful push is one of my favorite parts in the movie for some strange reason. It might be difficult to get Obi-Wan off the ship with the crushed legs from that entire platform collapsing on him, though, especially with the continued Star Warring outside making things complicated inside the ship. You would think that the Republic forces would be a little bit more careful blasting this ship, knowing that the Chancellor was on board, but okay. Speaking of the Chancellor, you start to see that kind of old mentoring facade of a politician slip away in those brief moments at the end of that duel, and I've always found it a little odd that they leaned into that so early in this movie. I felt like it could have been a stronger reveal, if you will, even though most people knew already, if they would have waited until further in during the dialogue between Anakin and him. But it's done well throughout, I think, and the do it line is also one of my favorites from Star Wars, so it gets a strong pass.
Do it.
Despite Palpatine's best efforts to corrupt Anakin this early, he is still good at heart and will not leave without Obi-Wan. Another one of my favorite Star Wars lines is this one.
Wait a minute. How did this happen? We're smarter than this.
Apparently not.
The scene itself, not so much. The ability to drop ray shields on anybody inside of a ship at any time is a bit world-breaking to me, and I'm not a fan of it. The gang gets captured and brought up to General Grievous. Why they didn't just let them walk up to him, I will never understand. But the results are the same as they break out with their lightsabers literally seconds later, and we get a cool fight scene with these sweet droids that we never see in action again, unfortunately. And General Grievous, for as cool as he looks, we don't get to see him in action either, as he throws up deuces instead of fighting. The ship is absolutely destroyed, and we get to see more of Anakin's piloting skills as he, I don't really know if you can call it flies, but guides a fuselage of a ship down to the planet, and more awesome visuals as the crash happens, and he safely lands everybody back on Coruscant. Whew, that was a lot of action to start this movie, and it made for a great start. But now that we have a moment to breathe, we can focus on setting the stage for the rest of the movie. Padme is pregnant, Anakin is happy for the first time in his life, probably. The Republic and the Jedi Council prepare to capture General Grievous and end the war, and Darth Sidious prepares to take a new apprentice. We do see a rare bit of humility from Anakin here with Obi-Wan, and they're doing a good job of showing his character growth from the last movie as basically being a completely just insufferable, angry teenager. So good job so far on that. There isn't a lot to talk about in this intermission, and that's probably a bad thing, especially since one of the notes is how cringy this scene between Anakin and Padme is. Natalie Portman is still pretty atrocious. Mildly better in some scenes here than the other movies, but that's not a high benchmark. However, it does set the stage for Anakin being dead set on not letting the dreams he's having about Padme come true. His happiness was very short-lived, apparently. If you watched my Attack the Clones video, you would have seen that I had a hot take on the fact that I think that the I Hate Sand scene and everything about that lake house is a really good scene, and I don't understand why people think it's bad or poorly acted or out of place. And it's time for a hot take again. Yoda is dumb. Anakin comes to him for advice, and the advice he gives him is basically be a sociopath. Be happy that people die and that you should just sever any attachments you have with people. That is like the worst advice you can give to a human, and it really shows how out of touch the Jedi Order is with the normal lives of people. Now that I think about it, the whole Jedi Order is pretty sociopathic. The fact that they give Anakin a seat on the Jedi Council but not give him Jedi Master rank is just petty semantics at that point. If you really wanted him to be on your side, spying on the Chancellor, you would have given him Master. It's a useless title that would have only made Anakin more loyal, but instead you forced him further away from the council by not giving him the rank of Master. It makes no sense, and it's incredibly short-sighted. Another point to Yoda being dumb, because there's no way that they would not have known that that would have made him upset. We also see more disdain for the prophecy that we saw in The Phantom Menace way back when from Yoda and Mace Windu here.
So the prophecy says.
A prophecy that misread could have been.
There's actually a theory that Mace Windu thinks that he is the chosen one, and that's why he hates Anakin so much and distrusts him for literally no reason. But that's a story for another time, maybe. Anakin is understandably upset about his new assignment to spy on the Chancellor, and Hayden Christensen does a pretty good job of showing that internal turmoil, I think. You can really see the beginnings of the Grey Jedi mantra that's so common today here. Luke really pioneered it in the original trilogy, and it gets expanded on in the sequels, but the Jedi Order's no middle ground kind of theology here is really what drives Anakin to become Darth Vader. If he would have had some support in his feelings here, he probably never would have turned to the dark side. But rising above the themes of the movie, let's get back to the actual movie. Palpatine is already very aware of the Jedi's plans to spy on him, so he attempts to get in front of this by turning Anakin against them. which he actually fails to do. Pro tip, if someone ever tells you that good is a point of view, they're probably a bad person. Anakin, despite all the Jedi Order's faults, can still see that they're good. Their goals are good. Their execution for those goals are pretty terrible on an individual basis. With that failing, Palpatine pivots. Instead of trying to convince him the Jedi are evil, he preys upon his fear of losing Padme. With a story about Darth Plagueis the Wise and a Sith Lord who could manipulate midichlorians to create life and save it, which is a very interesting story to tell a man who was theoretically created through the Force. It makes you wonder exactly how far back did Palpatine involve himself in Anakin's life, possibly even before it began. Much like in Attack of the Clones, the second act of this movie begins with Obi-Wan and Anakin parting ways. And this scene always cuts me deep, because it's Anakin under all his stress, apologizing for not being the perfect student, and more recently his frustrations with the council and everything that he's been asked to do. Obi-Wan tells him to not worry about it, and that he's become a great Jedi, one that's far stronger than him, and Obi-Wan's proud of helping him become who he was. So they share one last "May the Force be with you," and as Obi-Wan turns his back, there is an ominous, dark track playing in the background for what seemed like a pretty happy little moment between the two, noting that something is not quite right here. This scene, on top of being a great one for our two main characters, made me stop to realize how much better the acting has been in this movie so far, except from Natalie Portman. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing to write home about, but it's just a marked step up from Attack of the Clones. Really, everything about this movie is been better than any Star Wars movie that I've seen to this point, and it's good. It's a good movie. Anakin has another dream of impending doom about Padme and has a panic attack about it. The theme of Jedi and complete separation appear here again, as he says that he feels like he's not the Jedi he should be, because all he wants to do is save his wife and unborn child, and he equates that to wanting something more, when the desire to have a family is about as basic of a human need as food and shelter, and asking somebody to turn that off is kind of ridiculous. If they want to do it, fine, that's awesome for them. Good life decisions. But trying to force someone to not have the desire to love and have children is just asking for trouble, in my opinion. Have I mentioned that the practical effects look so much better than the CGI? I feel really dumb for thinking that the CGI really wasn't that big of a deal until I watched these with a critical eye. They look so good. Here on Utapau and in the Laser Light Show with Palpatine, they look really great. And I really hope in the next Star Wars movies we get some main alien characters. The scenes on Utapau itself are really cool. I'm just so thankful it's not a desert planet. And we get introduced to this very good boy who makes some really cool sound design appearances as well. While it hasn't quite been the same legend status as The Phantom Menace, the sound design has been very good in this movie. Obi-Wan thinks longingly for a moment before making a very bold decision to jump down and confront Grievous in front of hundreds of battle droids.
I immediately regret this decision.
Grievous's hubris does exactly what Obi-Wan wanted it to do, and he starts the duel by helicopter spinning some lightsaber blades in what is probably the coolest lightsaber display I've ever seen, and it does not disappoint. The spinning blades making the iconic lightsaber whooshing with the sparks kicking up from the scars on the ground that it leaves behind him. Great visuals in this movie. Just very, very well done. Good job, Revenge of the Sith. Very, very good job. The fight that ensues between the two is fun, but not quite as strong as the opening between Anakin and Count Dooku. Most likely just due to the fact that Grievous is not a traditional lightsaber wielder, and he's also CGI, so that probably throws some wrinkles in. But regardless, the camera work feels clunky as well, and Obi-Wan just slowly dismantles the cyborg until he scuttles away, gross, and gets in his circle car and drives away as Obi-Wan gives chase on the very good boy and resumes the battle. But not before we go back to Anakin on Coruscant. And I just want to take a small note to say the cuts in this middle section here between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith are so much better, and I am very thankful for that. Anakin is told to report the situation on Utapau to Palpatine to see what his response is. He does so, but then ends up just probing more about saving Padme. I'm not sure how Anakin isn't really suspicious of Palpatine at this point, telling a Sith legend that he had not heard before, but I suppose it could be passed off as him just thinking a politician knowing history of different political views is probably relatively normal. And also taking into consideration he's literally sat in the room with Yoda and Mace Windu numerous times, and they don't suspect anything of him other than maybe being a power-hungry politician, nothing about a Sith Lord. So maybe the suspicion is not just, it's just me forcing my views of what I already know about him onto the situation, which is probably likely. But anyway, once Sidious just lays it all out there for Anakin, Anakin does what any good Jedi would do and draws his lightsaber on him. He then tells him that he's going to arrest him and that he won't kill him even though he really wants to. And then you get another favorite line of mine from Sidious here.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
However, his anger and hatred and loyalty to the Jedi Order are not overweighed by his desire to save Padme, and you can see that whenever he subconsciously lowers his lightsaber before he realizes it and quickly raises it back up. That is a great little attention to detail in the fact that Anakin really needs him to try to save Padme and can't kill him even if he kind of wants to in the moment, but little things matter, people. This further makes me wonder how Palpatine knows about the dreams, or Padme for that matter, because Anakin's told no one that they're married, and has only told Padme and Yoda about the dreams. So, unless Palpatine has something to do directly with these visions, or more likely he just has a spy on Anakin and has bugged their apartment or something, that's not nearly as fun as Sith Force power manipulation, but that's the more likely option. Anyway, we never get that answer, but you don't need answers to everything, I guess, and it's fun to speculate on that. But anyway, the main point of the scene is the tension in the dialogue between the two is really good, and as I've said many times, that's my favorite part about any movies, really, and it's a really strong scene between the two here. Then we jump back to the fight between Obi-Wan and Grievous, which is probably my least favorite part of the movie. It's very clunky, and Obi-Wan takes Grievous out with a blaster pistol. It is a little comical, I suppose, but I really wish he would have used the Force to crush that heart or something instead of using a blaster. The Force was used in the earlier part of the battle with a big Force push, so why couldn't he have done something similar here? Just a bit of a disappointment in another staple of the Star Wars movie. I think they can check that one off the list. The disappointing death of a iconically cool looking villain. The stellar acting continues as we go back to Anakin delivering the news that Palpatine is a Sith Lord to Mace Windu. The scene here again is tense between the two, and then we get the classic Sam Jackson that I wish we would have seen in some of the other movies. Sidious unloads and absolutely destroys two of the three Jedi that Mace brought with him. A little silly they didn't even get a block in, but shout out to my boy Kit Fitzjoe for surviving the longest. But once the three of them are gone, the real fight commences. It's pretty basic between Mace Windu and Darth Sidious. Nothing really too special here. A couple weird CGI flips, but this window shatter is cool. And the main point is that Mace Windu actually beats Sidious. It's a point of contention on whether Sidious let him win or if he actually won there. But Anakin shows up just in time to make the decision between the narrow dogmatic view of the Jedi or a chance to save his wife and unborn child. He chooses to literally disarm Mace Windu, Sidious finishes him off, and Darth Vader is born. I feel like I have a somewhat unique perspective for this scene, actually. I didn't view it in the theaters first. I played it in the Revenge of the Sith video game on the PS2. So after Anakin does what he does, I felt everything that he felt, and it is not good. After I killed Mace Windu, I did not feel good. I can definitely say that, and I think Hayden Christensen does a great job portraying those emotions in his labored breathing and the pauses in his speech and the way he averts his gaze whenever he swears allegiance to Palpatine. And then also Palpatine goes full evil mode from the lightning shocking him and disforming him, and his voice. There might be some effects in there, but I feel like a lot of it is just Ian McDiarmid absolutely killing the role of Darth Sidious. He did a pretty good job as the sly politician, but he was absolutely made for this role as Emperor Palpatine / Darth Sidious. I can't see anybody else in that role. Afterward, he executes Order 66, and the beauty of these scenes is that no one went into Revenge of the Sith expecting the Jedi Order to make it out or not to see Anakin Skywalker in a suit of black armor. But the feelings and emotions that the scenes evoke regardless is impressive. Big bonus points for none of these planets being sandy deserts, so that's cool. The biggest question is, how do we take Anakin Skywalker, who was this kid that has grown up and we've grown to like and connect with, into someone that we absolutely hate?
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
Yep, that'll do it. That will do it. Obi-Wan and our good lizard boy are not immune to the effects of Order 66, and as they're fired upon, they fall off the side of a mountain into the nice, soft water below. They are both fine, even though I never see the lizard again. In my fragile mental state after seeing all the Jedi get murdered, I just have to think that they are fine. He's definitely fine. He made it out. Obi-Wan sneaks back to his ship pretty nonchalantly and walks right past the charred corpse of General Grievous and gets on his ship and leaves Utapau. I wish that we would have got some kind of confrontation between Obi-Wan and Commander Cody, as it seemed like they had a little bit of a relationship developed from the Clone Wars. And I think that would have been an interesting little tension-filled scene between the two, but we don't get that, and we probably have more important things to deal with, so it's not a bad thing that it wasn't included. From here we go to a bit of a down part in the story as we start to live in the train wreck that has just occurred, and Vader, not Anakin, I literally typed Anakin while I was scripting, as my brain still has not completely adjusted to what has happened, goes to Mustafar and deals with the remaining separatist leaders in brutal fashion. He is visibly distraught about his actions and the path that he has now taken that he cannot go back from, he feels. But all that said, Hayden Christensen is still a terrible actor and doesn't know how to show emotion and is just completely blank and monotone, the worst actor.
You will not take it from me!
Mustafar is technically a desert planet, but it's the coolest kind of desert planet and a volcanic one, so total pass from me on that one. Obi-Wan and Yoda sneak back to Coruscant and infiltrate the Jedi Temple and find only pain. They then separate and try to take down the new Sith Lords that they've discovered. Padme has what might be her only good scene in this movie, in the dialogue with Anakin here, and Obi-Wan and Anakin's dialogue before the fight is, I think, the best in all of Star Wars. I can't play it all for you here because I'll get copyright claimed for sure, but I encourage you to go listen to it and come back to this review because it is just that good. And then Yoda makes a excellent stylish entrance to his fight, and then the duels to end Revenge of the Sith begin. Honestly though, I have a hard time believing that Obi-Wan could fight Anakin after seeing how easily Anakin put down Count Dooku and how easily Count Dooku put down Obi-Wan. But maybe it's just Obi-Wan's defensive style and being familiar with Anakin that gives him a chance here. If you watch closely, it does look like Darth Vader has Obi-Wan on his heels pretty much the whole time. But the fight between Sidious and Yoda is much more evenly matched. There are a lot of cool scenes sprinkled throughout. Some of my favorites include this, which is completely useless. Force push here that would make any fan of Dragon Ball Z proud. This spinning disc throw from Yoda is definitely top tier. The fight between Yoda and Sidious is definitely the worst of the two, being mainly CGI and something looking off about the two of them being on the set together pretty much the whole time. It's still fun and cool, it just doesn't look as good. And that's okay because the fight between Anakin, Darth Vader, and Obi-Wan make up for it completely. As the fight between Sidious and Yoda ends, the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan is just hitting its peak. As the fight moves outside into the volcanic eruptions with magma and rocks and sparks falling down all around them, this shot is incredible, and the cinematography in general is just great, and if you think otherwise, you're crazy. But I really love Vader in this little shot here trying to get one last swing in on Obi-Wan just because he has that much hatred inside of him. The final stretch of fighting over the flowing magma river is maybe a bit much, but it's still a really cool visual with the two of them floating on different platforms, trading blows as they go. Then the final blow happens. Vader overestimates his power and gets his remaining limbs sliced off. Obi-Wan makes a powerful exit speech and turns away as his friend bursts into flames, being unable to strike the final blow to completely kill his enemy. Yoda really just kind of gives up and runs away. It definitely seemed like he was still capable of fighting to me, but he's like, nah, it's exile for me. Padme dies in childbirth, and anyone who tells me that that's not a viable explanation for a death can talk to the widower's effect. That, coupled with the intense stress of knowing that her husband killed hundreds of innocent people, caused the collapse of a galactic republic that she helped build, and couple that with what is probably a problematic birth and being physically choked or forcefully choked beforehand, I think she's got plenty of things to die about right now. Palpatine sensed that Lord Vader is in danger and managed to save him just in the nick of time and encase him in a suit of black armor, and then maybe exaggerated some details upon him waking up about Padme. The last line of dialogue is a throwaway line from Yoda about Force Ghosts, which is a weird one to end on, in my opinion. But then we see the babies go to their respective planets, Leia with Bail Organa, and Luke to Tatooine. I knew we wouldn't get out of this movie without seeing Tatooine for a little bit. But I suppose 30 seconds to end the movie leaning into that dual sunset in the distance is a pretty good way to do it. And boom, prequel trilogy reviewed. I genuinely believe this is a great movie. I think the only good movies for Star Wars are this and Empire Strikes Back, and Empire barely makes that cut for me. This is just a much better movie in pretty much every way. Better action sequences. It takes those dark tones of Empire and cranks them up to 100. The only thing the Empire might have going for it that's better is the character development, being the middle movie in the trilogy, but seeing Anakin become Darth Vader definitely makes that a hard one to call. In a lot of ways, I think that this movie really defined my movie preferences moving forward. I would have watched this in my early formative teen years, where this was probably the first movie that I watched that I really took in the slower paced, theme heavy, dark kind of mood of the movie, and that's very reflective of the kind of stuff I enjoy watching today. And I like to be depressed and terrified by my movies, and many people are not that same way, so I can definitely understand why people would like the more happier, uplifting ones, but I think it speaks for itself in the fact that Empire is the most loved original trilogy one, and Revenge of the Sith is the most least hated prequel, I would say. But those movies just tend to make better stories, and that's really what we come to Star Wars for, are the stories in extravagant places, and Revenge of the Sith just does that so well that I really don't think it can be argued that this is one of the better Star Wars movies. Setting aside the dark tones and themes of the movie itself is shot fantastically and has great visuals with excellent CGI and practical effects. The acting is very good from almost everyone, and of all the prequel hate, this one seems to be the least hated, with good reason. The fact that people think that A New Hope and Return of the Jedi are better than this absolutely boggles my mind, and if you think that, I don't know if I can have a genuine Star Wars discussion with you. But if you liked my thoughts on this movie and the others, hit the like button. If you didn't, a dislike. It's not going to be around for too much longer from what I understand, so you might as well use it while you can. And above all else, I sincerely thank you guys for watching and supporting me in my YouTube life. So if you want to leave a comment below and tell me what you think of Revenge of the Sith here in 2021, we will be looking over those, and I'm excited to jump into the sequel trilogy next. So if you would like to see me review the entirety of all Star Wars movies, please give me a follow and come back. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.